Welcome into the Wealth Lounge. As always, I have a guest here with me, Arielle Faulkner, Keller Williams, Gateway, servicing the Baltimore area, Baltimore County area, Harford County area.
Correct.
All right, and listen, she's doing her thing, man. She's out there making sure that women get into homes, not excluding any dudes, but she is an advocate for her sisters and being able to make sure that women are treated fairly in this real estate business, and I think that's really admirable. So Arielle, I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Yes.
How you got into this industry.
So for me, I think I was heavily influenced by a lot of my friends who were in the industry at that time. And so for me, I looked up and I saw the impact that they were making. And at the time, I was working 7 days a week as a case manager for a domestic violence program in Baltimore County. And I would do the sheltering after hours, working during the day, fulfilling women's needs. And the biggest issue at the time was housing. And so I became burnt out in that work, and I decided that I wanted to pivot, one, personally, to take care of myself, take care of my mental health, but then also to find a way to fill the gap. So what I noticed is that throughout the pandemic, there were so many different changes happening for women. And the last 2 years, I saw women who looked like me, not only just in race, but socioeconomic status and education as well, who could not get resources. And you do the work so many times, and institutions don't talk to each other.
Right.
And I had in my mind that I really wanted to be the person to fill the gap. So getting into real estate, one, I became a homeowner. I had some awesome realtors and who were also my friends at the time. And they really set the bar and showed me how to really make an impact as a realtor, and really modeled for me how I wanted to run my business. And then what fuels my why in helping women buy a home is, one, economic empowerment. So how can you use this as a strategic investment to set you up for wealth, not just now, but later in life?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really kind of it. So my why, again, is helping women, and then wanting to fill the gap, right?
Wow. So, all right. So talk to me a little bit, because I heard you say that the first thing you did was buy your own home. Talk to me about that experience a little bit more. Like, I know that, you had some realtors on your side, but talk about, what you took from the experience that you felt like you could take back and to offer to some other people to be able to kind of pull them across the line to the home ownership.
Yeah, so before becoming an agent, I was a first-time home buyer, and that's something I pride myself on. And I believe that I bought in one of the toughest markets. So I bought my home in July of 2021. However, a year and a half before that, which was January 2020, before the world shut down, I was going through a rocky transition.
Tough time.
Leaving a relationship at the time, and I thought that I was ready to buy a home. In my head, I'm like, I want this 3-bedroom house in Randallstown, no neighbors, single family home. And my friends at the time had just gotten into the business, and they invited me to a home buying workshop. And I sat there, I got educated. They had a lender on site, and I'm like, this is what I want, X, Y, and Z. At the time, I didn't have the best credit. I had just blew through my savings, and I had about less than $1,000 to my name. So it really wasn't feasible. But what they did, and what I'm so grateful for, is walk me through that process and held my hand every step of the way. So I wasn't ready in January 2020, but when I left there that day, I was determined and I was motivated. Not just that day, but again, they checked on me throughout, but I also knew that I wanted this more than anything else. And it was also more affordable to buy at that time than it was to rent. So I put in my mind that I knew I needed to fix my credit. I definitely knew that I needed to save. So I started with that. Now, it was a lot easier at the time, I would say, because no one knew what the world was going to do.
Right.
So I had a lot of time on my hands to call debt collectors and pay the people that I owed, right? And during that year and a half that I really committed to the process of becoming a homeowner, my credit score went up 152 points. So I think when I first got pre-approved, it was like a 590.
That's awesome.
When I went to buy, I got all the way up to 800. So I was like really, really happy about that. But I also picked up a side job, and was working full time as well, and saved close to about $20,000.
Wow.
Yeah. I moved back home and I realized that is a privilege that not most people have, right? But I was very resourceful and motivated to meet the goal that I had set for myself.
And it sounds like, me listening to the your first statement about how you were working with a need that you saw amongst people, and the way that you were kind of wanting to be able to service that need from a different angle, when it came to housing. And then you found yourself in one of the most difficult transitions of your life, coming out of a relationship. I'm only expecting that to be your existence, right? Like, and then to power through all of that kind of gives you some characteristic traits to take back to some of the clients you were planning on serving.
Yeah, for sure. And I use that now. So I would say, prior to getting into real estate, right, it's a service-based industry, but it has a lot to do with sales as well, right? You have to have that kind of personality. Outside of working at JCPenney in college, I really didn't have any background in sales. However, I would say that spending 5 years as a case manager with a special population, so victims of trauma, really prepared me for anything that will happen in real estate. It helps me navigate it, decision-making skills, safety planning, because you have to do a lot of that. You have to do a lot of preparation, motivational interviewing with clients to really determine, like, why do you want to buy a home, right? Because just, I'm tired of renting, that's not always enough. Like, are you tired of renting enough that you're committed to the process? Because it is a big investment. And so I find myself using those same skill sets that I build as a case manager to help me build and run my business efficiently and in a way that's rapport building. I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but showing empathy.
I get that, because that's a lot of what we do here, right? We and I know that, and when you're talking about money, love is not always involved, right? But we built we built Gene Frazier team, here, the Wealth Lounge. Everything we've done from a loving basis. There's more so purpose involved rather than just sales. And I think that organically brings the business in, rather than, when somebody realizes, oh, okay, they really do care about my well-being, my financial understanding. It's not so much, I want to make a sale off of you. We want to make sure you buy your home, you keep your home, you understand money correctly, right? You set up some planning for your finances, set up some planning post-home ownership. We want to make sure you keep your home. We want to build out a sustainable situation for you when you do close on that home. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So let me ask you this. What challenges would you say you faced as both a realtor, but then also as a woman buying your home? What do you think some challenges out there that some women are going to face walking into one of the most important purchases of their lives?
Yes, I would say for me as a single woman, just having that one income and knowing what I can afford at all times was one of the biggest challenges for me. Now, I know that budgeting, everybody's favorite B word, right? Like, people are scared of that word, but that really set me up for success because prior to wanting to buy a home, I really didn't have the financial savviness to, make sure my savings account were funded, to make sure I'm tracking every dollar. And I sort of became obsessed with being financially prepared. And so I think that for most women, when we're accustomed to a certain lifestyle and we're not necessarily familiar or educated on all the additional responsibilities that come with home ownership, especially when we talk about the Black community where home ownership is, among the lowest in our community, right? We don't really have anybody to look up to in that sense, or, it's very far few in between. I know outside of myself, my mom was the only other person who bought a house recently, and my grandmother. So some of the challenges I would say that I faced is just making sure, like, outside of the down payment, those carrying costs that come with home ownership, right? So your home warranty, your homeowner's insurance, all of those different line items that I didn't account for before, I could still afford my mortgage, my monthly payment, in addition to my lifestyle after that. And when we're not budgeting throughout the process and we just kind of sign up for home ownership on a whim, I think it could work to some people's, could be a detriment to some folks, right? It'll hit them a little harder. But I think when we only have one income to depend on, it's a little bit harder to kind of gauge like what type of home is right for me, right? Is this my starter home? Is it my, forever home?
How to think about it,
yeah, price, location, condition, right? Like you can only get 2 of the 3. Ideally, in a perfect world, you will get a 10 in each area. But thinking like as a single woman, if location is important to me, right, then what other factor is going to be very important, because I most likely won't be able to get price and condition. So that was pretty much my case. I bought a fixer upper. 3 years later, I'm still making improvements to my house, but it's slowly becoming my dream home, and it's something that I can afford with just me. And so it's not my forever home, but it's my starter home. And I think for single women, we should look at home ownership in that aspect.
Right. Two things. One, I thought it was dope you worded the way you've saved your money is by making sure your savings accounts were funded. Because we talk a lot about this here in the Wealth Lounge, allocating your money, having control over the distribution of your funds, and understanding how that control eases the anxieties of, oh my gosh, what do I owe? And then I gotta pay this, as opposed to I made sure this got paid, this got taken care of, this got taken care of too. I think that does wonders. And then the other thing that I heard you say was you had a fixer upper, and we talk a lot here, man, about renovation loans, because those sorts of, that sort of financing can definitely make sure that you can tie the cost of whatever renovation you have into the cost of your mortgage. And it's not like you have to pay up front.
Right.
This is going to be in your mortgage payment, for however many years you fund the loan. I thought that was pretty dope. But
yeah, I was going to say, and to give you a little bit more context, or to make it a more visual process for you, I moved back home. But once I determined how much I could afford in terms of a mortgage, even though I lived at home, I was very intentional about saving that amount biweekly. So when I got paid from my job, I actually set up a separate account and titled it Home Ownership. Like that was the name on the account. So biweekly, $530. Because at the time, I'm like, I can't have a mortgage over $1,000. So I did $530 just to be on a cushion. So biweekly, $530 came out, went into that account before it ever hit my primary bills account. And then I established a savings account and then also a vacation fund. So I picked up a second job. I pick up a second job. And so all the money that I was making from my full-time job went to funding my savings account. And then for my second, my part-time job, I used that either as spending money. And then I got so, I guess, obsessed with creating these different accounts that I started another account called Furniture. So when I moved into my house, not only did I have a significant down payment to bring to the table, but because I bought a fixer upper, I also had money on the side to do some of those renovations up front. So before I even moved into my house, I've renovated, fixed it up for about 2 months. And then I just made continuous improvements as I went on. And so that's something that I'm very transparent about with my clients. Is that while you're saving, if you're not ready today, here are the 3 things that you can do. Start that account, label it home ownership, mortgage, HOA, whatever you need. And so now you can start saving to really see in real time what you can actually afford. Right. And how does it affect your budget now? Right. So if you want this, $250,000 house in Baltimore City or wherever you want to buy,
are you making room for it? And your finances. Listen, man, I am extremely on board with budgeting for your humanity. Right? Because listen, we gotta be human, man. We gotta be human. And I believe that, we are going to have human moments. And budgeting for giving yourself a certain amount to be human is important, so that you don't have, so it doesn't have to seem like war all the time, right? You know, and because of course you want to obtain the goal, but you want to make sure that your plan is sustainable, because it's so hard to stay disciplined 100% of the time
if it's not enjoyable.
If you don't have no space to be yourself, to be, of course not, don't get me wrong, you got to incorporate some disciplines, right?
Yes.
But this allocating some funds to you is going to ensure that you stay on track, because you still get a chance to indulge a little bit while you cut yourself back a little bit, you know. And I think being reasonable with that is important, vital, as a matter of fact. So that's dope that you actually pointed that out. All right, so talk to me a little bit about some misconceptions that you see amongst women when they're entering into home ownership. What are some things you want to correct about their understanding of buying a home?
That is easy. I feel like I encounter so many women who are like, I want to buy a home, and they want their forever home, you know, and then they get pre-approved and they see what they can actually afford and what it looks like, right, and where it is, because, you know, 250 looks different in Baltimore City than it does in Harford County, than it does in Baltimore County and parts of Baltimore County. And one of the things I stress to my clients is real estate is hyper local, right? So you have to understand that. So really scaling down or managing your expectations, I should say. And again, I'm all for the starter home. I don't know when starter homes, you know, became not cool, but I do see a lot of women sort of pull back from the idea of home ownership when they realize like they can't get this big 5-bedroom, $500,000 home, you know, because they were not educated on how it actually looked in terms of monthly payment and what it takes to get there financially. So does that answer your question?
It does. It does, because a lot of times we got that fear of missing out. That FOMO, right? And a lot of what we're going to deal with here, and when you enter into the home buying process, it's more so fear and want to have it all right now. Right, that immediate gratification. But this is a long play. Right. I believe in the starter home concept too, because you should always buy a home planning on it being your asset. Now, of course, there's going to be some other things for you too, right? It's going to be, you know, a place you should lay your head, find safety in, but it's going to be a place where you create a foundation to actually spark some of the imaginative ideas that you're going to have to build more wealth. That's what this home is going to be for you, right? And thinking in those terms allow you to start planning your next step when you do close on that starter home. Right? Some different strategic things you could do with that home, right? Creating some investment opportunities for yourself with that home, which takes me into my next question for you. I mean, what are some ways to kind of pivot or think about pivoting that first starter home into an investment property?
Yes. So I always tell people, like, when you buy smart, you're going to enjoy it, right? If you love living here, start looking at your neighbors and what's going on in the community around you. Because when you're ready for your step-up home, is this a good location to have for a rental property, right? Is this the type of neighborhood that will attract renters? Or if you want to sell for top dollar, just start looking at the trends that are going on in your neighborhood. And so over time with your starter home, you're making these consistent improvements so that when you are ready 3, 4, 5 years, whenever you are, you are maximizing your profit. If you gain crazy equity, like a lot of us who bought in 2021, 2020, even 2022, maybe consider, if it's financially feasible, taking out a home equity line of credit and buying another investment property. So those are some of the ways that I educate my clients, because that's my plan and that's what I intend to do. And so while I am making improvements to my home, I'm updating my clients, especially the ones I have the best relationship with. Like, girl, look, when you buy this house, keep this in mind, right? When you buy this house, keep this in mind, right? I have one client say, like, I want to knock out a wall and join 2 bedrooms. Like, you want to make sure that if this isn't your forever home, how will taking out an additional bedroom and impact your resale value.
Right.
And one of the blessings I find in having these candid conversations with my clients is slowly they start picking up on the language. And when we're starting to look at more and more houses, or we're closer to the end of the home buying process, I pick up on the fact that they're repeating that language back to me. Right. So even with trends, and they're looking at the fixtures that they want to change, and I can always change this, or I can take this out, and so that is
spoken like a true mentor.
That is the best part. That is the best part, is when they start mirroring your language. And that's when I'm recognizing, like, okay, impact has been made. And now this wealth trajectory is off to a great start, because now I have them thinking about, this is my strategic investment now.
Now, let's stay right there. What are some things women might want to avoid, walking into home ownership? What are some pitfalls that women should try their best to stay away from when it comes to entering into this market?
Buying at the very top of your budget, especially when home prices now are historically high. Interest rates are a little higher as well. And so if we're thinking about making this a strategic investment, if you're buying at the very top of your budget, do you have the cash flow to make these improvements while maintaining all the other aspects of home ownership? So I find some people who are not willing to put in the sweat equity at the beginning. They buy at the very top of their budget, and now they don't have room to furnish the house the way that they want. Or, it's a little tight, and it becomes, a lot less enjoyable. And I tell them, like, I'm not putting you in the home that you're not going to love living in. One, because that's just not my style. But two, I want to be invited to the cookouts. I want to be invited to the housewarming.
Indeed.
And I don't want you not loving me because it was not a good decision for you. So, not that you can control the decision, right? You control the process as the realtor. But I feel like I'm doing my due diligence as I educate them, to let them know, like, don't spend all your money buying this house. You still have other things that you need to do as well.
I agree with you, because a lot of times, again, we have so much fear that we're going to miss out on that home, right? And we're not planning for a step. Like, this first home is our step. It is not the step. It's a step, right? That's going to propel you into the next level. And, all right, so planning on, purchasing that first home, and planning on that home actually transitioning or propelling them into a much more prosperous future. How much emphasis are you leaning on how they choose the neighborhoods they buy in?
Price, location, and condition. Like, I never want to steer people away from certain neighborhoods, and I think that it's all about perception, right? East Baltimore, born and raised. So what's safe to you and what's safe to me are two different things.
Exactly.
So location, I what I do for my clients is just giving them data that they could find, if they were savvy enough, but data that I have access to about the neighborhoods, the market statistics, the historical trends in the neighborhoods, and when they start sending me zip codes that they're interested in, right? All right, is it a good investment now? Maybe, right? You have to live here. So bringing it back to those factors, location, condition, and price. If location is one of those things where it's like, I don't know, it's a little shaky, don't go for it, right? Because I want you to feel safe. Like, it could be a good investment in the future, but you have to live here right now. So I always pose that question. And then taking it back a little bit to pitfalls. Just want to go back to that because something came up in my head. One thing that I also notice with the women that I work with, or clients in general, is that they don't really have the savings too. So being able to afford a down payment, I know, like, with certain programs that are offered, if you're in a position where you have good credit, you could qualify for a lower interest rate. But some of those down payment assistance programs come with a very specific interest rate that you have to carry for a short period of time.
That is correct.
And so I'm always educating clients about having enough money or more than enough money to bring to the table. Because if you are someone with a 720 or 740 credit score, but you need down payment assistance, you're going to get the same interest rate potentially as everyone else, right? And so how does that impact your monthly payment? Or if you don't want to choose that route because you don't want that interest rate, do you have the flexibility to say, hey, I'm good without it?
Right.
So those are some of the pitfalls: budgeting, saving, and buying at the top of your budget.
Yeah, and it's always important to realize. Listen, I've been telling clients for years, you don't have to have perfect credit to buy a house. That's not how that works. But there's going to be a give. There's going to be a give and take, right? Because if you don't have good credit, you're going to deal with an interest rate, right? That's not favorable. But then if you have great credit, it might not even be wise to take a program. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's going to be some seesawing in some of the decision making that you're going to have to do when it comes to how you approach home ownership. But I do think that, understanding your realtor and what she knows, how she handles what she knows, and, making sure that you're answering the questions that she asks is vital to you buying what you want.
Right.
Which takes me into my next question. Like, how do you approach the need through your questioning? How does your consultations go?
They're very custom. I have implemented a quick survey. So when people book their discovery call, they get like a 5-question survey about your credit score, have you been pre-approved, what are your wants and needs, what locations have you started looking into, so that when you come to the buyer's consult, I've already prepared data about here's the average home sale price in this neighborhood. If they haven't been pre-approved, before we even start talking about a lender, do you have a budget? If not, I have a custom template that I send to my clients so they can start budgeting, right? Do you have the credit score to qualify? Now, I know that some people say, you can buy a house with as low as a 500 credit score, but not when you work with me. Right? Not when you work with me, because I want you to be successful financially. Not just
actually,
right now.
It isn't 500, so please don't call me about 500. You know what I mean? But I get what you mean. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, and even so, everything is just about going 3 questions deep. Are you going to need the down payment assistance? Do you qualify for those down payment assistance programs? So my consultations are a mix of, I should say, rapport building, because one, I want to scope out if we are a good fit to work with each other, right? Bringing in my case management skills and motivational interviewing. I'm always looking for the people who are motivated, but also if you need a little bit more motivation, how can I motivate you in a way that it doesn't feel pushy? How do you like to be communicated with when things get overwhelming? Because this is an overwhelming process. I cannot promise that drama won't happen, because in real estate, 11th hour drama tends to pop up. But for me to successfully help you navigate through that and to be the advocate, right? I want to know how I can best communicate with you. So that's first and foremost. Then we go through budgeting and saving, all the financial questions. And then based on what their needs are, I'm connecting them with my preferred lender partners who I do see as a good fit for what their financial goals are, both short-term and long-term. And then throughout the process, I'm educating them every step along the way. So now we're coming in, I have what I call strategy sessions, where, all right, we've reached pre-approval. I know that the buyer's consultation can be a little bit long and overwhelming. Let's come back in, or let's hop on Zoom, and let's talk about the next step. So chunking down the information every step of the way to make sure that they're educated every step of the way has really worked in my best interest, as well as my client's best interest, because I'm continually making sure that we're on the same page. There's a lot of jargon I feel like realtors use. We'll say, submit your EMD.
And act like they know what that is.
What is that? Where is it going, right? And really giving them the autonomy back, right? So I know that we like to push our connections and the relationships that we built. And I always tell my clients at every point in this process, you hire each person in this transaction. I'm going to extend my team to you, because building a successful and knowledgeable and competent real estate team is important to getting you to the finish line. But just know, we work for you. Like, we are here to service you. And so you have the autonomy to choose every step along the way, the title company, the lender, the inspector. And that really does a number in building trust and helping them to be successful and knowing what to expect and easing those anxieties every step of the way.
Yeah, you know what? You approach it a lot like we approach it too, Gene and I. You know, we look for the need in there as well, right? Because if we can find, and then we also look for your why.
Yes.
You know, your why has so much power connected to it. And you know, you're buying this house because of something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if we can put so much emphasis on that why, learn about that why, learn what's connecting you to that why, finding out your needs to make sure that you stay connected to that why. That alone kind of allows you or anchors you in some of the more anxious moments of the process, you know. And we make sure that we allow you the room to feel. But we also, you know, remind you why you're doing it.
Right. So when it gets hard, you know, I always tell my clients, like, I'm tired of renting. It's not a big enough why. Like, why do you want to own a home? And actually, in my buyer's guide, I have a section where they can journal those thoughts out. And so that's very helpful. It allows me to get to know them a lot more, because I'm telling them to do that after you leave here. And in our next consultation, we're going to talk about this, because I want you to do this. It's like free hands, free of thought. You're not writing what you think I want to hear. Like, sit down and really journal your why around home ownership, because it's going to get tough. Especially in today's market, right? We have
it's a journey.
It's a journey. It's a journey. It's a process. You know, it's a process. So
it's not gonna be no hop, skip, and a jump. You know, there are gonna be some things that happen that's gonna rattle your faith a little bit. But anything that's worth having is worth fighting for, right? And there's gonna be some resistance, right? Because you're moving into the next level, which is normal, right? That's life. But I'm telling you, that why, man, that acts like a rocket in some areas, man. Especially when you experience some of the more turbulent moments in this process, right? So let me ask you this. You know, the consultation, you know, I've gotten an understanding on how you approach the consultation. I've gotten an understanding on what's your why, right? And connecting you to your clients. I've gotten a little bit of an understanding on your knowledge about, you know, where, you know, people might want to buy, might not want to buy, how you assess the situation. But I'm eager to hear, once they get into the situation, they find a home, and now we got to start negotiating. How does that work for you? How do you approach the negotiations when, you know, you're fighting for your clients?
I really do think it's a case-by-case thing, right? I think I've been blessed to work on the opposite end of other agents who recognize, like, we're all in this together. So we haven't really had to fight each other, you know, on both the seller and buyer side. And again, it goes back with my clients managing expectations when it comes to the inspection, because everybody is worried about buying a lemon, right? So we're going to ask for everything up front. And if they say no, they say no, right? And I just need to know what is worth fighting for when it comes to my clients. So if they say no on this, are we going to keep fighting, or are we going to walk away, right? The choice is yours. But really thinking strategically and less emotionally when it comes to negotiation is good, because if you approach it with, you know, resistance, someone on the opposite side is going to mirror that resistance, and you might not get anywhere. And the last thing I ever want to do is cost my clients a home because of my ego. And I think that, you know, luckily I've been able to close deals with other strong women, and we've been able to just communicate really well, but knowing what are the deal breakers for my clients, what we're going to, I don't want to say settle on, but what we're going to accept, versus when it's just time to walk away. And there have been times we've had to walk away because
Yes.
we could not come to an agreement on the other side. And it's like, oh, well, your seller's lost or your buyer's lost. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm going to negotiate. I'm going to advocate, more importantly, for my clients in their best interests.
Yeah, I love that, right? Because, man, there's nothing more important than having the strength to say, no, not on this one, or I can't do this one, right? I mean, I remember back in 2020, man, some people were passing up inspections to be able to get offers accepted.
Never
right? There were people that were beginning to rattle their integrity, right? Question certain principles that they had set in place just to get this home. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about bad moments that some clients may have found themselves in. But what I will say is there is a lot of power in deciding that this one ain't for me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Those conversations are tough, though. How do you go about having those kinds of conversations? Because on the lender side, you know, we tell you, you know, yeah, you can afford this one. Right now, we might get the appraisal back and we might, you know, have some say in that. But from the realtor side of things, you guys get that inspection done really early on in the process. And there might be some conversations where you're like, I don't know if you want to, maybe you should give this one a little harder thought.
Yeah. And I think every transaction is different and every person is different. And what I am learning is to ask better questions so that I can understand my clients. And I think that it comes back to building rapport with your clients and not letting them settle, right? And I tell my clients what my realtor told me. I remember the house that I thought I really wanted was in a particular area. My realtor, without saying so much, was just
all these grand plans.
He's like, if you like this house, I need you to see it at night. And not just any night, tonight, right? And so I drive back around there when the sun sets, and there were rats that like were sitting on the front porch, right? And so I'm so grateful he put that bug in my ear, because when I left the house, I was like, I want you to write the offer.
Because he can't say
that, right? He's just like,
he can't tell you don't buy this or
don't buy it. He said, if you really like it, come back around here tonight. And he did. And I rode down the street and I was like, I called him. I was just like, nope, I think we can keep looking. So I try to use that approach with my clients, right? I'm just like, if you really like it, once I know what areas you're looking in, I always encourage them to start mapping out your favorite grocery store. You know, start seeing what those lifestyle amenities are in the area. So like once you live here, you already kind of have a feel for it, especially for in today's market where things are moving quickly. Sometimes we don't have a chance to make those decisions, because once they come on the market, they're gone, you know, 6 or 7 days later, or they're at least under contract. So I always tell my clients, do your due diligence up front.
Yeah.
Start seeing if you like this neighborhood. See it at night. See it in the middle of the day. You know, if you know Wegmans is important to you, how far is the closest Wegmans, right? And if that's going to be a deal breaker, then we know that this isn't an area for you, right? Or if you're willing to compromise on that, then so be it. But I really try to give my clients the autonomy to make those decisions. So I never want to be the reason they end up in a bad home, or the reason that they walk away from one because they were influenced by my opinion. Because at the end of the day, it's all about perspective. So as long as I'm, again, asking 3 questions deep, okay, you like this house? Scale of 1 to 5. You know, if it's not a 5, what's going to make it a 5? Before I write this offer, is there anything that's going to cause you to withdraw your offer or want to terminate if it gets accepted? Yeah. And I had to learn that the hard way. But again, just everything comes with experience. Yeah, there's a lesson in there for you. So let me ask you, I mean, how do you stay top of mind? How do you keep the certain market trends and stuff like that top of mind for your buyers? Being educated. I tap into my brokerage. They provide a lot of training, a lot of education. I use the internet, right? So we have access to certain databases that pull up the market trends and the data. And again, real estate is hyper local. So you want to know, you want to be educated about the real estate in a particular area because your clients are none the wiser, right? We're the professionals, we're the experts. And so masterminding with other agents, stepping out my shell more. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert, but I think the more that I get out there and I speak with top agents or agents who are working in the same area, believe it or not, there's a lot of collaboration in the industry, or at least in my experience, and just really picking people's brains about, like, you know, how do you make sure you're serving your clients well? Where do you get your information from? And just being honest and transparent about being a knowledge-based agent and always wanting to grow has helped me provide that value to my clients.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, man, you with your heart being postured toward women and making sure that single women are, you know, not only just obtaining home ownership, but then also, you know, obtaining sustainable home ownership.
Yes.
You know, you listen, over the years, I got this stat from the Lending Tree. You know, across the United States, single women own 2.7 million more homes than single men. Right. And then single women own, you know, 10.95 million homes, while single men, they only own like 8.24 million.
Wow.
You know, single women are doing their thing right now. Right. So let me ask you, I know you serviced quite a few. Give me some success stories from your women, your power to the women's stories.
I would say I just closed a transaction back in February with a client who never even thought home ownership was possible. Single woman, very nice job, just never really thought about home ownership. And she walked into my listing and really liked the house, but didn't really like the area. And I was like, you know, well, we'll work together, keep in contact. And so started building rapport with her. At the time, you know, she didn't have the savings or any of the beginning items that I usually recommend clients have, but she was very committed and very just open to learning about the process. And it was just from start to end chaos. Not on our end, but we actually were looking at homes. We ended up under contract with one home, and there were some things that we had negotiated to be repaired. You know, turns out that the repairs weren't made by a licensed contractor. And I always recommend that you do look those up, especially when you're representing a buyer. And we walked away from the house, and it really, really, really hurt her, and I could see it. And I woke up every day like, I have to fix this. And I know that the right house is out there for her. And because we had so many roadblocks in that process, I started feeling like, okay, this is happening for a reason. And so not even 2 weeks later, we found another house, a better house. Needed no improvements, right? The inspection was clean, and we were able to close that house on that deal in 14 days. And she got a refund back at the table.
Awesome.
Right? So, but throughout the process, she was able to continue saving. So even though we walked away from that first home, she was still committed to doing all of the things that I had told her to do in the very beginning. And all of that hard work, look, she got a bigger and better house, and a more desirable neighborhood, like where she preferred to be in the first place, because at first we weren't finding anything. We were submitting offers after offers, but she ended up being exactly where she wanted to be, closing in 14 days.
Oh, that's dope.
And got a refund back, $1,400 at the closing table.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So walking into that, like she walked out the room, was like, I can get my floors done. I'm like, yes, because again, it's your starter home, right?
Yeah.
And it was a nice canvas for her to really start transforming and putting her personal touch in there. So if you're watching this, girl, I'm glad you got those floors done. Invite me to the housewarming. But
yeah, that's dope. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, listen, this is Arielle Faulkner, Keller Williams, man, she's out there making sure that women are getting what they deserve,
Yes.
going to the closing table, obtaining home ownership, but also obtaining sustainable home ownership. She's educating her client. She's pouring in. She's asking the qualifying questions to make sure she understands your needs. She's doing her thing, and she's not just in it for a transaction. She's in it to love you. So I really think that's dope. Yeah. Tell everybody how they can get in contact with you.
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram at ra.theagent. And you can text if you're interested to buy or sell. Text HOME 2024 to 443-955-6142.
Go. Thank you for joining me, Arielle.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right. Peace.